Have you ever wondered if there are any limits, any rules, even in the chaos and destruction of armed conflict? It might seem counterintuitive to think of rules in warfare, but they exist for a very important reason. These fundamental rules are designed to protect humanity when it is most vulnerable. International Humanitarian Law, often referred to as IHL, clearly defines prohibited methods of war as those actions that inherently violate core principles of distinction, humanity, and proportionality. Essentially, these are methods that cause unnecessary suffering, are indiscriminate in their effects, or involve treachery. The goal is to restrict the means and methods of warfare to mitigate its devastating impact on individuals and communities. The prohibition of certain methods stems from the foundational principles of IHL first. The principle of humanity dictates that suffering, injury, or destruction beyond what is necessary for achieving a legitimate military objective is forbidden. This means that while military force can be used, it must not be gratuitous or cruel. Second, the principle of distinction requires parties to a conflict to always differentiate between combatants and civilians, and between military objectives and civilian objects. Attacks must be directed solely against military objectives. A method of warfare is prohibited if it cannot make this distinction, meaning it will inevitably strike civilians or civilian property. Third, the principle of proportionality, which is closely linked, states that even if an attack is directed at a military objective, the anticipated civilian harm must not be excessive in relation to the concrete and direct military advantage expected. Methods that inherently lead to disproportionate civilian harm are consequently prohibited. Finally, perfidy or acts of treachery are also strictly forbidden because they undermine trust and the protective function of IHL. In practice, these definitions lead to specific prohibitions. For instance, using weapons or methods designed to cause superfluous injury or unnecessary suffering is forbidden. This includes poison, biological weapons, and certain types of landmines. Indiscriminate attacks are also prohibited. An indiscriminate attack is one that is not directed at a specific military objective, employs a method of combat that cannot be directed at a specific military objective, or employs a method of combat whose effects cannot be limited as required by international humanitarian law. Examples include area bombardment that treats a number of clearly separated military objectives located in a city as a single military objective, or firing without aiming. Other prohibited methods include ordering that no quarter shall be given, meaning no prisoners are taken, and feigning an intent to negotiate under a flag of truce to lure an enemy into an attack. Using protected emblems like the Red Cross or Red Crescent for military purposes to gain an advantage is also an act of perfidy. These prohibitions are enshrined in major treaties like the Geneva Conventions and their additional protocols, as well as in customary international humanitarian law, which applies universally. Violations of these rules, especially grave breaches, are considered war crimes. The International Criminal Court, or ICC, has jurisdiction over individuals who commit such crimes, underscoring the international community's commitment to upholding these vital limitations. Understanding these rules is not just academic. It empowers everyone to recognize and speak out against actions that cross the line from legitimate military action to criminal conduct. It reinforces that even in war, there are unbreakable boundaries. By clearly defining and prohibiting certain methods of warfare, international humanitarian law aims to reduce the immense suffering caused by armed conflict. It establishes essential guardrails that protect innocent lives, preserve basic human dignity, and hold individuals accountable for their actions. These definitions serve as a critical moral and legal compass, reminding us that even amidst conflict, the rules of humanity must prevail, guiding combatants away from brutality and towards greater adherence to universally accepted standards of conduct.